Oh, and another fucking thing. Hi, I'm Alex, and I am continuing my rant from, like, hopefully yesterday if I managed to get my shit together and, like, actually put the video online. I mean, so in the previous video I was talking about, like, it's really not that fucking hard to put queer people in your creative works, and in fact, not doing so is and saying that it's hard is really just the height of laziness as an excuse goes. Like, you're a writer, it's your fucking job to figure it out. But a few days ago, Chuck went off about this on Twitter, like, because bless him. And of course, someone popped up, because they always do, with, well, I mean, I don't have a problem with this, but I don't like when it's forced. Or, you know, some variation on that. Like, well, I don't have a problem with gay characters, but when it's like they're forced in there, you know, I just don't like it. And I just want to talk about that as an excuse, and how shitty and bad of an excuse it is as a way to cover for your own internalized homophobia. Because when you come down to it, everything that is put together is a deliberate creative choice. I'm really tired of, like, this artistic thing about, you know, like, oh, it just comes from the ether, like the angels have communicated it to me, and, you know, it is what it is. Like, no, whether it is a conscious or subconscious choice, it is still your choice to build the story in that way. And so trying to say, like, X or Y or Z, you know, is okay as long as it is not basically an artificial element of the story, is completely misunderstanding how putting stories together works, because frankly, everything in a story is artificial. The skill of writing is making it seem natural. It's kind of like that whole thing with, you know, dumb shits who are like, oh, well, I think natural beauty is better, and look at this picture of this model who is totally wearing makeup. She's not wearing makeup, it's better. And so it's like that idea of something that appears natural is superior to, like, you know, so, like, makeup that looks natural is better than when you can, like, tell that a woman is obviously wearing makeup, which is just like, give me a fucking break. So first there's this conflation of something being through skill given the appearance of being like a natural outgrowth as opposed to artificial. And, you know, there is, I will say that it is possible to be like, I feel like this thing is out of place in a story, or da-da-da-da, because it is a major part of writing skill to hide all the seams and the strings and put everything together right, so that it all flows in a way where it feels like a natural outgrowth of what is happening. Like, that is a major part of a writer's skill set. And you can have failures of skill where you're just like, well, this just came out of left field and I have no idea why, because they didn't explain something to you, or it got added because, like, a studio executive really, really wanted the hot lady to fuck the action star. Because I'm sorry, hetero people, if you want to, like, complain about shit being forced into a story, let's talk about all of the romance plots where we just need to, like, you know, affirm the nuclear family and heterosexuality for reasons, you know. So I'm not gonna say that, you know, something feeling forced is completely an illusion, because it's basically, there are times where a writer's skill fails and you see where they did a bad job cutting things out and pasting it in. Like, it is possible for that to happen. Yes, and it is not a video if you don't get, like, a close-up of my fingers or my gloves, so whatever. But this is the thing that really bothers me. Because particularly when you're talking about building characters that challenge the assumed norm, to a certain set of people, and hi, I'm talking especially to you people with internalized homophobia that want to believe that you're not homophobic and there's nothing wrong with gay characters as long as they're not forced. It's that when you run across something in a story that challenges your expectations or assumptions, it's always going to stand out to you. Because, particularly when you're in something that's quite formulaic and so we're talking like, sci-fi action tentpole movies, things like that, where you have been trained over the course of your life that there is a certain formula and the movie is going to follow that. And there is like a very comforting aspect to that. And you get that kind of formulaic thing with characters as well, where, that's why the default assumption is that characters are white when you read them and there's no description of their color, or the default assumption is that everyone is straight because that is the expectation that has been built up in you over the course of your media consumption. When you hit something that challenges that inborn assumption that you've built up over the years, it is going to stand out. It's going to be like, whoa. It's like when people watch The Hunger Games, when a bunch of terrible people who had internalized a lot of racism, or not so internalized it, watched The Hunger Games and flipped the fuck out about Rue being black in the movie when she'd already been black in the book. But somehow they managed to miss that because people are very good at skipping over things that challenge their internal assumptions. So that stood out to them and became a thing for no fucking reason other than it was not what they expected. So when you're talking about a thing being forced, I really need you to take a good internal look and think about, is it really that the writer did a shitty job at something, which is honestly most of the time in what you're whining about not going to be the case, or is it because it challenged your internalized assumptions and you don't like it because it makes you uncomfortable? And if it's the latter, which I'm going to guarantee when we're talking about, hey, this character in this series, by the way, they're queer, moving on, it's almost always going to be the latter. Because, having had this argument with people before where you start kind of going, okay, you keep moving the goalposts on me as to what would be acceptable to you. Just tell me what you would accept as being not forced, good, having a gay person in there. And it's literally just like, oh, well, if it's a gay movie that's about gay romance. Or it's a movie that is about queerness as opposed to a movie in which some characters happen to be queer. And that is basically the only circumstances under which they would think it's not forced. The problem is not the writer, the problem is you. The problem is you don't like it that your internal assumptions got challenged and you think that is somehow unnatural, as opposed to the writer is actually doing a good job and forcing you to think about your own expectations and your own assumptions about the world. So that's why I'm really tired of this forced argument, because when you come down to it, it's a way that people can try to, be like, oh, well, I don't want queerness to get all over this IP that I like. Yet I want to claim that I am not queerphobic in any way. It's just that I don't like it when it's not natural. Well, it's never going to seem natural to you because you want to live in a universe where queer people don't exist. So, basically, if someone uses that excuse it doesn't hurt to ask a question or two okay, what would you consider not forced? And if it's basically the only place where queer people are allowed to exist is when it's literally a movie about queerness, then you need to take that and put it into the garbage where it belongs, because it is a garbage excuse. And it is such thinly veiled internalized queerphobia that it's just not even funny. So that's what I wanted to talk about with that. So basically you need to look inside yourself and consider why you would think that any inclusion of a character being queer is a problem. And why, and then you need to realize that the problem is you. So that is what I have to say about that. I will talk to you later.